Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League. And today we are back with the GT4 cars, both GT4 cars for a fact. And also I'm not alone here today, because just like in the GT4 there's a pair of two bringing you through the evening. Alongside me is Tim Ireland.
Hello Lino, hi everyone on Twitch, how are you doing today? Yep, we're back at the Nordschleife ring. Nordschleife ring? Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
So, there we are back. And the cars are going out for qualifying. Right after Tim, of course, cursed the stream by saying terrible start, my internet decided to go out. What irony. But, yeah,
I can curse everything.
Indeed. Well, qualifying now on the way. The first driver out, Michael G in the BMW M4 GT4. Dominik Ladler. Somebody is really surprising with his car choice, isn't it?
Yeah, I was not expecting Dominik Ladler to be in an Audi, but here we are. What strange alternate reality is this?
Well, I like that. It will be very interesting to see how the Audi performs with him. Not often that we see Dominik Ladler deviate from his car choices, and I don't think we have seen him in an Audi before, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm very curious to see what will happen. And today we also have some drivers back who missed round 1 of the GT3X last time around. So it might be a bit tighter up front, won't it?
Yeah, we have got a few people that weren't here last time. We've got the GT4 cars, open setup, which I'm sure we'll be talking about later on in the cast, as that changes things around a little bit. Quite a few M4s, the odd R8 thrown in there for good measure.
Yeah, I mean, open setups really will be quite a big difference in terms of how the cars handle, how the drivers may also react, and how the general race will pan out. And we've seen a lot of M4s in the past, you know, people are accustomed to them. How much will they change them up? Maybe Dominik Ladler found something with the Audi that led to him changing his car choice for this race. Could all be the case. It will be certainly very interesting, and also in the championship standings. May take a second.
Instantly killed them.
I instantly killed it.
Best cast ever.
Let me try to fix that.
Yeah, because we gave away the M4 during EWC 2004, not this year's. Most of the drivers here own one, and they do like to drive cars they own. And how much they'll have messed with the setup, I'm not entirely sure. Whether people will go for the ultra low wing, complete speed, but I have to slow down during the twisty parts. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, it will be certainly very interesting. And I mean, you probably meant 2024, not 2004.
No, I meant 2004. I stand by that.
Okay, fair point. But yeah, in the championship standings, last time we've seen a big upset with Maximilian Dehn doing a pit stop blunder. Maybe partially thanks to Kimi Harpala.
It was a bit of professional sabotage.
Professional sabotage, indeed. And we have both drivers back here today. and Maximilian Dehn in the M4. So might be very interesting in terms of championship implications. But we are only in round 2. It's not too decisive yet.
Lino, internet things.
It was just a slight outage. So today might be a bit tricky, guys. I apologize for that. Unfortunately, not much I can't do in this moment. But yeah, we are now here entering Bergwerk. And then it's this very, very long uphill in the GT4s. Less downforce, quite a good amount of power, so you can really climb that mountain even with the reverse exit, but getting a good exit here really is crucial to your lap time.
Yeah, the slight lack of power and the downforce means that they have less cornering speed than in the GT3s for sure. So they really have to get on that power early for the uphill sections to carry the speed all the way up, compared to the GT3s where you can be a bit more hesitant with getting on the gas, knowing that the power will pull you through in the end. Whereas it matters a little bit more with the GT4s.
Yeah, less downforce also means a bit more sideways maybe at times, and I'm very curious to see if Alizar here will show us that today again. He has a habit of doing it in this particular car, so I'm very curious to see if he does it again or if he decides to keep it a bit more nimble today.
He does seem to like drifting the M4. Well, we say like, I'm not entirely sure he likes doing it, but he does seem to do it quite often.
Well, if you do it in that frequency, you certainly like it. Of course, there's again
maybe...
points for qualifying as well, so... Last time, qualifying points were what kept Maximilian Dehn only 1 point behind Dominik Ladler. Maybe today he can surpass him on qualifying points alone.
It's a good start, yeah. There's a long way to go in the race, and you never know what's going to happen. I'm sure he'd be taking less advice from Kimi Hartler this time. But you never know. He's got the pace, that's for sure. It's the green hell for 45 minutes.
I think what very interestingly for me is that Ladler and Maximilian Dehn went for 2 different cars this time. Usually we tend to see them in the same car, which is more or less equal. In the G3s, I think Ladler on the Nordschleife tends to use the M4 as well. So this makes the R8 an even more odd choice, maybe, but... Yeah, I'm curious to see what he thinks about it after the race, as Maximilian Dehn has a huge drift into Schwalbenschwanz. But he's not holding back anything in this car.
He tends not to hold back, does he, Max Dean? He's pretty confident in his ability, and he's willing to kind of throw it all on the line for a qualifying session. I suppose he has the added safety blanket of the fact that he knows he's quick. So even if he does mess up in qualifying, he knows he can make it back during the race, probably, as long as he isn't caught in any funny business.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, surviving that first lap, I think, will be key in those cars. Could really determine how your race is. And this race today is a bit shorter than last time around. Last time around, we had a 60-minute race. This time, it's 45 minutes only. So you have less chance to make up for lost time.
Yeah, and you definitely won't want to be getting any kind of aero damage with the Dottinger being so massive in these cars. They won't want to be losing any speed.
But a very surprising thing, Rohan Den Hood taking pole from Maximilian Dehn. Dominik Ladler 11 seconds back in the Audi. Julian Chicot will also be quite a while back, but Rohan Den Hood taking pole by 1.5 seconds. Alizai in third. That is, for me, a big surprise.
Yeah, it's a good lap by Rowan there, doing an 8:39.5. That's it's a respectable lap around the Nordschleife, that's for sure.
Marzinski seems to have put into the wall somewhere. Big damage to the front right of his car. Just Monreal just coming out of the final turn. But of course will be quite off the pace. Not sure what happened to him. Dennis Kurzer wasn't able to start the session, unfortunately. But yeah, our top three, Rowan Den Höth, Maximilian Den, Alizai, Enrico Bräuninger actually putting it in fourth in front of Dominik Ladler. So
yeah, I wonder if Mr. Ladler is cursing his choice of the R8 now.
Who knows? I mean, we know that race pace is very, very different to what we see in qualifying. But yeah, Rowan Den Höth putting it on pole, I think, is the biggest surprise here, in my honest opinion. Not because, of course, we know that Rowan Den Höth is quick, but quicker than Maximilian Den on the Nordschleife, we have rarely seen that.
Yeah, he's been pretty dominant on here since he first showed up at the at the time it was the Founders League series, I believe.
Yep.
But so he's been fairly dominant on the Nordschleife since then. 1.5 seconds isn't a lot though, as we've said many times around the races at the Nordschleife. It's a long way, so it's not as big a gap as it would be a shorter track. But it's still a gap, which in itself is impressive. And we'll see what happens when the race starts, I guess.
Indeed, we are just waiting for some drivers to finish their lap times. But then we are good to go. And what do you think we can expect from this race? From this group constellation? I think we have 6 very quick cars in the top 6.
Yeah, there are some quick drivers out there for sure, and I think the GP circuit is going to be pretty busy as people try to get in a decent position before they get on the Nordschleife proper. But I don't know. I'm really not sure, to be honest. That's kind of thrown me. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Very much so. If those people did some setups, and I see that one has already submitted his, but of course we have the setup channel ever since we included open setups to the game. So if you want to find out what these guys have raced for this race, try finding it in the setup channels. Enrico already posted his setup there. Maybe some other people will do that as well. Santi Tetra just finished his lap time. That means we will now go into the race. 13 cars into turn 1 on the Nordschleife. That will be interesting as usual. And I think the GT4 races always have proven to be very, very entertaining.
Yeah, they have, yeah. A little bit not quite as equal as they have been in the past, with it being open setup. We'll see what happens there with people messing around and what their personal driving style is compared to the defaults on the M4. But also, they probably haven't tested them for the full 45 minutes, so we'll also get to see what effect it has on tyres as the race goes on.
And Ron Note immediately trying to get heat into the tires, and I think it seems like he nearly spun on that as well. Quite interesting.
Yeah, things are getting a little bit spicy already for Rowan, but he's kept it on track, that's the main thing.
The Audi's very, very easy to spot with their bright green.
Yeah, 2 Audis on track, and they've both picked the same livery.
Seems like Dennis Kurz, unfortunately, yeah, he is. So Dennis Kurz on the back of grid couldn't partake in qualifying. We'll start this race from the back, and we go racing in the green hell. And Ronan Hood immediately covering the inside from Maximilian Dehn, who's having a look to the outside now. Alizaya couldn't quite have the same start as these two up front as we go into turn 1, and Rowan keeping the lead. It's 3 wide, 4 P3 though, and Dominic Lala's in the mix. There's contact. Dominic Lala doing a bit of a half spin, but seems to keep it under control. We are right now looking at Julian Chico versus Enrico Bräuniger for 4th. As Chico is going the long way round and up into 4th. A good start for the man from Poland. And up front it's Ronan Hood, 6th, 10th clear of Maximilian Dehn.
Yeah, that's going to keep him out of having to defend for a few corners, that's for sure. He's got a little bit of a gap there. I'm sure Max Dean will be fairly eager to make sure he doesn't get too much further ahead for now.
And it is, as we said, the top 6 really being able to build a bit of a gap. Michael G barely hanging on to that. David Gocki in 8th, seeming to have a better start than in the Spa RCL race last time around. But this pack from Ronan Hood to Dominic Lala seems to drive their own pace. Let's go on board with the defending champion.
He's got some work to do today, but one thing we've noticed with Dominic Ladler is he does like to kind of temper his pace at the beginning and pace himself for later on in the race.
Yeah, and especially with the GT4s, they are a bit more tire sensitive, so if you over push the tires early, you will really suffer because of it later on in the race. And he has the only car that isn't the same in those leading cars in the leading group, which could either be his disadvantage or his big advantage later on.
Yeah, he's rolled the dice and we'll see what happens with it. Hopefully it pays off for him.
But Ronan Hood keeping Maximilian Dehn at bay. And you said it earlier, or after qualifying, Maximilian Dehn is the first winner of the RENNSPORT Founders League, but also the winner of the first event at the Nordschleife, which was the launch event, a 1-hour race back then. So on the Nordschleife he always is a force to be reckoned with. And still,
yeah, for sure.
It's one keeping him just at distance for now.
Maybe worth mentioning, I don't know, but Ali Zahir seems to be the only one who forgot that it was open setup and fuel was disabled, as he's put 50 litres in his car. Everyone else is running fairly low fuel for today's race.
Yeah, of course, that will also be a big deciding factor. Higher fuel loads mean you have more weight to carry around, and the tires need more work, and doesn't particularly help in the long run. But still, Alizai was able to get clear of Julian Chico, who is still having to defend from Enrico Bräuniger here, even though he got that position fairly quickly at the start.
Dennis Kurtzer has got a drive-through penalty. I'm assuming it was for a false start, but I'll try and check. But he's the only person with a penalty right now.
Meanwhile, Rockstein right on the bumper of Ronan Hood. He's faking to the inside to Versov. You don't make a move there, but very good move to intimidate your opponent. But these two have raced each other a lot of times. They have experienced what they can do.
Yeah, and Rowan's been driving a lot of the open lobby races with some of the esports drivers recently, so that should definitely have upped his racecraft game a little bit.
Maximilian Dehn is not giving him an inch, and now in the slipstream uphill. Is he going for the outside? It's a very hard play. I think he was too close to really make a move now, because you just can't really go side by side. Even if you have people who really expect, now is the time where he can go side by side, but he's too close. He can't really build a run. But he's just getting that tiny bit of overlap. The next is a left-hander, and there's contact between the two of them, and Ron Hood is hard into the wall, flipping the car onto the roof. Oh, and Julian Chicot also into the wreck. Dominic Lala just able to avoid it. And that now changes a lot.
Yeah, for sure. That's given Maximilian Dehn a little bit of a lead over the second place Ali Zahir. Rowan de Herd seems to have got going again in 5th place. I think he's moving. He is, but his M4 is looking a little bit worse for wear.
About 90 degrees right hand down as well, so it's not a pleasure to drive. But I don't know on this one. Maybe a bit unnecessary, one might say.
It's difficult to say from just a viewing angle, I guess. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of talk about it in Discord afterwards.
So if you're looking for some entertainment, Enrico Browning are also heavily involved in that incident. Yeah, the Discord may be a bit of an interesting place afterwards.
Yeah, Dennis Kurtz received a drive-through for speeding during the start procedure.
Alizar with that comfortably in second. Maximilian Dehn's car seems to be in quite okay shape. It was just a slight touch between the two of them. Guess he was also very lucky to not be collected by the out-of-control car, I think you can say, by Ron Hood.
Yeah, he was pretty heavy on the anchors as soon as it happened. So I think he was more than a little aware of what had happened and wanted to keep well out of it.
Dominic Lala putting Julian Chicot, of course, also collected major damage in that incident. Also lost his side view mirror, which may not do things easier. But it seems like we also lost Piotr Zadalbe from this race, unfortunately. Dominic Lala is having a look in the outside in Gallenkopf, which is also fairly interesting. Now, with a much better exit though, just flies by Julian Chicot.
Yeah, if Chicot's got any kind of aero damage, he's not going to be able to keep up with a fully clean Audi. Dominic Ladler doing a pretty good job of staying out of trouble there.
But yeah, that was only lap 1 of, I think we should have 6 today, if my math served me right. Who really gained from all of that. I'm not sure why Michael G dropped down so much, but David Gocki in 5th, as Julian Chicot just lost control of his car. David Gocki is listed in 5th, and he actually is in front of the two Strocken cars of Ron Hood and Enrico Breuninger. So maybe luck's turning around for him this time, with Julian Chicot just up the road and also a damaged car. He's looking at a potential P4 finish.
Yeah, Julian Chicot, he's a bit right-hand down at the minute, and he got to the end of Dottinger and made a bit of a pig's ear of those corners. So he's in the pits now to try and get some repairs. David Gocki is going to easily get past him there.
One and Hood into the pits. I presume we see Michael G as well. We'll definitely see Dennis Kurz. And Dennis Kurz has major issues as well. We see front end heavily damaged. We see also that the rear has some, let's say, adjusted toe angles. So Yeah, that first lap we've been talking about it, but really striking a lot of cars down.
Yeah, Chest Humanera having real trouble keeping it on the straight here. The R8 gang seem to have not had a good start to this race, except for Dominic Ladler.
Yeah, but Dominic Ladler now up in third. It seems like Alizaya is closing in on Maximilian Dehn.
And Piotr Zadybal in chat saying that he lost connection, unfortunately. It was not a willing DNF.
Yeah, again, not too much luck there for him as well. I see some cars seem to be moving into the pits now. Mashinsky, behind that Cesco Moreira. And this Kurze also on his way. And so, yeah, a lot of cars in not a very favorable position maybe now in the race.
Yeah, there's going to be a bit of a kind of second division, I suppose, from now on, with the people coming out of the pits and having their own kind of race at the back there.
It will be interesting to take a look at the incident again. It was maybe too much on Maximilian Dehn's end. Maybe not, but that is very hard for us to see here. What we know is that it completely changed the race. It took out 3 favorites for the podium and 1 contender for the win. So
yeah, it's live stewarding isn't a thing we do in races. We don't have the manpower, unfortunately, with just me and Lino doing the broadcasts. Hi. We don't have time to talk and steward at the same time.
it could be that Alizaya gets a chance at redemption for last time around, though. If you think to the last GT4 race, it was Alizaya leading until the last lap. And quite ironically, into the same corner we see Rondon Hood having his incident with Max Dehn, he flipped his car on the roof on his own, which was a very unforced error, although very entertaining to look at.
Yeah, that is very true. And he does seem to be doing pretty well here. He's lost a little bit of time to Max Dehn, but not an awful lot. So hopefully that will go pretty good.
Also Rondon Hood as well as all cars in front. Back out on track, he just came out just behind Cesco Moreira in the Audi. So maybe he's able to just salvage a few points here and there. Collect some experience as well, but what he can definitely take from this race is that he has the pace to challenge for wins here at the Nordschleife, even with the likes of Maximilian Dehn and Dominic Ladler.
Yep, for sure. It was a fantastic qualifying there by Rowan de Hood, and I'm sure he'll try to take that lesson away, if nothing else.
Yeah, the gap up front always fluctuates a bit, but it stays roughly at 3.2 seconds. So it will be the long run, the tire whispering that decides, and we know that both of them are very good at that. So if you know anything, it's that we really don't know anything for this race, about this race.
Making us look like the experts we are.
We can at least sound smart. We can put it into nice words that we know nothing. Interestingly enough, Enrico Bräuninger, with the damage he has, he's staying out, but it allows David Gocki to just ever slightly close in, I think. At least on certain parts of the track. Meanwhile, I see you take a look at the incident.
I can't see exactly where it is. I can't remember.
Oh, and Enrico Bräuninger spun in Moodkurve. So Moodkurve today really a hotspot for mistakes.
Yeah, maybe people forgetting about the reduced downforce of GT4s there and just running a bit afoul of the high-speed cornering.
Yeah, especially with the rear getting a bit light. Enrico Bräuninger already carries damage with him, which won't make it easier. So Michael G now for BST into 5th, though at least in terms of team standings, not much changed with that. And up front, Alizai actually lost 2 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's down to setup or what, but he got a purple sector in Sector 1, which was pretty good. Neither him nor Maximilian Dean running purple sectors, I've got to admit, for this point in the race. Max Dean doing purple in Sector 7, which, if you're going to purple anywhere, that's a good one because that leads on to dotting over.
It's interesting to me that even with quite a damaged car, Enrico Bräuninger is still able to kind of keep his pace up. Of course, not to his usual pace, but still quite well. And
yeah, he seems to be doing good.
But yeah, we are only 1/3 of the way through and already had quite an interesting race, to say the least. For Dennis Kurzer, of course, it's a very unfortunate thing that he has to come to the pits again for the drive-through, because he had to repair his car last time around.
Yeah, that's really going to put a crimp in his position even more than he already has, to be honest, which he's not going to be too pleased about. But Dennis Kurzer always seems to be a bit of a soldier. He always carries on fighting, so we will always applaud that.
As here goes Enrico Bräuninger. But yeah, you can see he's lacking top speed. The damage up front just too much for the car to punch through the air as it should. And Michael G just driving away. Won't be easy to get past another car like that.
No, it's difficult with him getting so close as it gets to the Dottinger Hoare and then just slowly backing off.
They entered one behind each other and now they're back up to 1.5 seconds. So really a big difference in speed between these two cars. Oh, and Enrico Bräuninger nearly losing the car. Can he keep it? Yes, he can.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, he really needs to catch up to Michael G and get a second's gap before the start of Dottinger Hoare, otherwise Michael G's just going to go sailing past him again. It's going to be a big ask to get an overtake and make it stick for Enrico Bräuninger.
As David Gocki is in the pits changing tires. Don't see much damage on that car, so interesting to know why. Ron and Hood is only 4.5 seconds back from Santi Tetra. Struggling with a bit
David
of
Gocky
damage.
is doing some repairs, so it must all be suspension damage.
So Ron and Hood will get another position. He may actually be able to get closer to David Gocky. Him being in the pits for quite a bit more time. Oh, going very and doing a bit of a wheelie there.
Some pretty shaky antics from David Gocky as he got past there, but then Rowan almost threw it away. Managed to keep control of the car.
I think we also got a second DNF in Mashinsky, if I see that correctly. No, he's still going. He has just been stationary for quite some time.
Enrico Bräuninger finding his way past Michael G. And trying to build enough of a gap now so that he can hold it down Dottinger Hohe. Seems to be doing a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, now he has all the time he needs to build a bit of a gap to just keep that position later on. Because there's not much of a slipstream or high speed. Of course you have the run to Abenberg through the Schwedenkreuz, which is quite fast, but not quite top speed as well in those cars. So it may help him to get a bit of a gap to his teammate in Michael G. David Gocky came out roughly 60 seconds ahead of Ron and Hood with 4 laps to go. This should be possible. But Ron and Hood is actually coming to the pits to repair his car, so probably some damage he picked up in that wheelie maneuver.
Yeah, he's got 45% aero right now, so his car is not looking hot, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really
He's
going
back on the tracks.
from bad to worse for these. As just Comunera is overtaking Santi Tetra just before he pulls into the pits.
Enrico Bräuninger has got completely fine on suspension, but he's also got 50% aero damage right now, which is why we saw him going kind of backwards on the Dottinger last lap round.
Yeah, with the GT4s, the aero damage really is more defined by the loss in top speed than actual downforce loss. These cars don't have a lot of aerodynamics through turns. Of course, there is a certain bit to it, but not crazy.
Yeah.
So you most notice it on the fast sections where you just lack top speed compared to the, well, not damaged cars. Dominic Ladler in third, I think doing well on his own out there in the Audi.
Yeah, he's got a tiny bit of aero damage as well. You can pick up aero damage just by having a car that's a bit too low and hitting a curb or things like that. And obviously here at Nürburgring, some of the curbs are pretty big. So it's pretty easy to pick up little bits of aero damage along the way. It shouldn't affect him too much, though.
You know, you've been saying about or talking about setups quite a bit, and actually maybe that is a good point. Not only is this today the first race with GT4s with open setup, to my belief at least. Tomorrow we will of course have the RENNSPORT community event, which will also be open setup with a very special car. Because we will race the Porsche Mission R at Spa-Francorchamps with open setup, so it is a car that is very special. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about it in just a second. But open setup's really opening up a whole another variable to the races we've seen before.
Yeah, it's one of the cars where the default setup was not to everyone's taste, shall we say. So being able to mess around with the setup has definitely let people get a bit more out of the car than they used to do. It's a ridiculously powerful, really, electric racing car. I don't think it's ever actually raced, but it is something that Porsche built. So not really something we have much in the way of kind of comparisons to the real world for. But the suspension on it was quite hard in the default setup before, I believe, so it didn't like curbs. I think it's pretty safe to say.
Yeah, that is a bit of a thing. I mean, the setups I think were a bit overworked as well since the update, but with the Mission R, as you said, there's no real comparison to it. It of course did drive in real life, but there never came a racing series from it. But with the variable of open setups, we've seen some very exciting races at Daytona and Jeddah already with it. And open setups, you can lower the wing, get some more top speed, but sacrifice cornering. Make the best out of the four-wheel drive system. It is really a car that is very advanced in technologies, I'd say.
I'd
And
completely forgotten it was all-wheel drive, but yeah.
and of course, the qualifying mode. It's something
Yes.
you don't only make a setup for one car, basically, because in qualifying mode you get a lot more power. Car becomes a lot more aggressive, so maybe you need two setups, and the cars will handle very differently between the two sessions.
Yeah, it could be an interesting one for the drivers if they do choose to do a dedicated qualifying setup. Is how easily they adapt back to their regular racing setup.
Yeah, the change always was very pronounced at the start of the first race. But with setups, this might be even greater. And of course, there may just be the blunder of not loading the correct setup at times. So we shall see. I think Julian Chico is making a bit of a comeback at least. He's slowly closing in on Michael G.
Yeah, I'm assuming Michael G's had a bit of a problem this lap because he's now 10 seconds behind Enrico Breuninger, so that should give him enough breathing room as they start coming down Dottinger. But yeah, Julian Shakur not had the best of laps so far, but it seems to be closing the gap fairly consistently on Michael G.
Yeah, of course, one of the very unfortunate bystanders in that first lap incident, I think you can call it.
Yeah. Yeah, we all love a race at the Nordschleife. It's got danger, it's got a tiny amount of grass and then some walls. But of course, the downside of that is people hit those walls and then bounce back onto the racing track, which not something you get at the some of the more kind of modern racing circuits.
Yeah, for Alizai, he's not really able to go the pace of Maximilian Dean in this stage of the race. So the German just building a bit more of a gap. Dominik Lala also, I think, having roughly the same pace for the most part as Alizai. Sometimes a bit slow, I think, last lap. But other than that, really both not able to really challenge for the lead here. Which makes it all the more interesting to know what could have happened without that incident at the start.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit of a shame that happened. It would have been nice to see the battle go on a little bit longer.
I think Maximilian Dean is actually coming up on Santi Tetra here to put a lap on him. So yeah, it's alright, fairly safe. Not set in stone yet. Any of these lapping maneuvers could cost dearly, or just a mistake on their own, as we've seen before. But all the last, we only lost one car due to technical issues so far. Maxine going through on the inside. Next up the road will be Alizar here for Santi Tetro. Interesting to hear him downshift in Wehrseifen this late. These cars have incredibly short first gears. Don't really use them.
Very short first gear. It is basically a start and that's it.
Of course, these cars are also equipped with a 7th gear, which you wouldn't quite expect in a racing car. Well, unless it's a hypercar, of course. But, yeah, these cars, of course, use their street legal or their street version transmissions. Which also means they get, usually what these cars have is the dual clutch transmission with the 7th gear. For fuel saving purposes. And it's also the reason why these cars don't typically have... Oh, Maximilian den drifting through Moodkurve like crazy there. But the reasons these cars don't have a clutch pedal actually. Julian Chicot only 2.5 seconds back from Michael G now. Who himself is 10 seconds back from Enrico Bonning. Not much of a change there. Oh, Michael D getting loose in the triple right. Was able to keep it under control, but it is a scary moment, definitely. And I think also for Julian Chicot, who's already been caught on and now gets the position because Michael G is running right in Wehrseifen. But I don't think Julian Chicot wants to see another car spinning out in front of him today. Swanenhood moves up into 10th because Marzinski is parked in Belov S. Maximilian Den now on his way to start the 5th lap.
Yeah, he's got a good lead on Ali Zahir right now. Ali did just do his fastest lap. About to finish another one, so we'll see what his time's like from that one. But he seems to be... He's not like pulling away massively fast, is he? It's not like he's walking away with this completely, not having everything his own way.
Yeah, it was kind of a phase of about half a lap that Alizaya was not able to go his pace, but it really stabilized again, so it's... Maybe it was out of rhythm. A good point from Radoslav Pironkovic in chat, as Alizaya is doing a big drift here. That really won't gain him time, but... yeah, of course, Alizaya is carrying more fuel, so maybe his tire is going in, but for that he has too good pace now in this stint of the race, so... Really hard to pinpoint what is the reason here for Alizaya losing pace for some time and now being able to go with him again. Whatever the case, unless one of these two does a mistake, it's very unlikely that Dominik Lala closes in on them.
Both drivers' pace has dropped off quite significantly now, though. Max Dean's fastest lap is a 46.8, and his last lap was a 52.9. So he's gained a good 6 seconds. Whereas Ali Zahir gained 4 seconds from his fastest lap.
See Ron and Hood having damage on the back of his car again, and we've seen some yellows on the Grand Prix track as well. Not sure what exactly happened. I see he was typing in chat, which is maybe not what you should do when driving a car. But, yeah, seems to be able to carry on. Car's very, very spread across the Nordschleife. And Maximilian Dehn also lost 3 seconds now on the Grand Prix track because Alizaya is only 4 seconds back, still gaining. What has happened to Maximilian Dehn? He's losing 10th by 10th.
Max Dean seems to have a lot of aero damage all of a sudden. I'll try to pinpoint when that happened.
It is very weird.
Or has my hood gone funny?
His car seems to be in fine shape, so I doubt that being the case.
Could just be the spectator hood being a bit funny. Yep, no, it's now showing 100% again.
They are closing in on Ron, who seems to struggle with his car a bit. Actually, I'm not quite sure what this is now about. I mean, of course, these two had the incident earlier. Ron and Hood, of course, having the damage from the Grand Prix part. Seems to be a lot of damage on the rear of the car. Oh, and Alizaya is off. Alizaya losing it on the power, exiting Metzgesfeld. And Dominik Lala not too far away.
And that is not a crash that was easy to get back on the road for Ali Zahir either.
And he also now has quite a bit of front end damage, which will cost him a lot on the Döttinger Höhe. And also on the run through Kesselchen.
Yeah, with about a lap to go, there could be an interesting fight for second place.
Maximilian Dehn also drifting into Brightside. Question is, can Dominik Lada capitalize on it? It would be helpful for him in the championship, of course.
There's a 10-second gap right now between Dominik Ladler and Ali Zahir, so he's got a bit of space to make up, but I suppose we'll have to see what difference that makes to Ali Zahir's lap times.
We also see that Julian Chicot is only 5 seconds back from Enrico Bräuniger. Both of these cars involved in the same collision, and with Enrico Bräuniger still carrying on with the damage, Julian Chicot repaired his and is now driving around the outside in Adenauer Forst. So easy pickings for him there. And they're kind of building a train behind Ronda and Hood.
They are a bit, yeah.
And of course, the big winner of that, Dominik Lala, because he's now 4 seconds back from the train. And actually, we only have a couple more minutes left on the clock.
Are they trying to cut the race a lap short?
Could well be.
It could be a risky move, though.
And Maximilian Dehn seems to have stopped, or seems to have a technical issue, rather said. And seems to not be in the race anymore. Not quite sure what happened to him there.
Yeah, Max Dehn does seem to have DNF'd. I'll try and find out more of what's happening there.
But as it seems, we will finish on this lap and perhaps in this order.
He's also dropped out of the voice chat channel they're in, so I wonder if Max Dehn had a mechanical failure in the internet sense.
I don't know what you could be talking about. I never had an issue like that.
I know it's not something ultra reliable Germans like you were used to.
But yeah, it could very well be the case. And Julian Chicot now right on the bumper of Enrico Bräuniger once again, so they must have changed positions again. But yeah, with only 50 seconds left to go and the whole of Döttinger Höhe in front of us, I don't think this will change much.
No, I don't think so.
Dennis Kurzer, meanwhile, had so many issues earlier in this race and still somehow ended up in 7th. Tetra made up some positions to be in 10th.
Julian Shakur's lost a fair bit of time to Enrico Bräuninger, but Enrico, as we said before, has got quite a lot of aero damage. So he's going to have to do something a bit tricky, I think, to stay ahead after Dottinger.
Well, time is up, and we crossed the finish line. Alizai in first, Dominik Lala in second, and Juan and Hood finishing just behind them, although a lap down. Enrico Bräuninger and Julian Chico, 1 second between the two of them. You just explained the situation. Let's see how it plays out. And we see the delta shrinking. We see Julian Chico coming closer and closer. This is for the final podium spot, and there we now see this isn't slipstream. This is the damage on Enrico Bräuninger's car, who has no chance against Julian Chico on the Döttinger Höhe.
No, it's like he's got a different gear there entirely, doesn't it?
But yeah, what a chaotic race this was. I mean, the GT4 races are just never really normal in any sense. So Julian Chico third in the end, Enrico Bräuninger fourth. And Michael G, unless something big happens now, should be able to finish this one in fifth. I'm not quite sure about Marzinski because he's been stationary in Belov S for quite some time, so I don't think he is finishing this race. But yeah, definitely very interesting. Let's put it this way. In the overall point standings, we see some interesting changes, to say the least, but of course all played into the hands of Dominik Ladler. But we will come to that in just a bit after Michael G crossed the line in fifth. So yeah, what do you think from what we've seen today?
Well, I mean, like you said before, the GT4 races never seem to be particularly normal. Our Nordschleife races never really seem to be normal, and we seem to have used that as some kind of force multiplier today, and it's been not like definitely not normal squared. It was a bizarre race and a chaotic race with some interesting battles along the way.
Yeah, and there are current standings after this race, assuming that all the remaining drivers make it into the finish, which I will now just assume. We have Dominik Lala leading on 40 points, 13 points free of Enrico Bräuninger, who also jumped quite a bit in the standings. Maximilian Dehn with that late DNF, unfortunately dropping down quite a bit. I think he should still have the point for the fastest lap, but it won't really change that much, except for, of course, 3 drivers ending up on 23 points. So, yeah, I mean, next race will be GT3s again. What do you think? What do you expect from it?
Hopefully a bit more sanity and some nice close racing. I think it's going to be our first time having the GT3s with open setups here, so it's cars people know a bit more, and I'm sure they've had a bit more of a chance to get used to the open setups, and it could really change how some of the people race. I think it'll be more noticeable in the GT3s than anything else because people know the cars so well already. I think little changes to the setups could have big implications.
Very much so. I'd say with that, That was the wrong sheet. We see you back at the Nordschleife in 2 weeks, and tomorrow, of course, for the RCE. I'm very much looking forward to it, and I think it will be very interesting to watch. Yeah. Any final words from your side?
No, I'm looking forward to the race tomorrow. I think it could be a lot of fun with the electric cars, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks for the GT3s, if not before.
Well, until then, have a great evening wherever you live in the world, and goodbye.
Goodbye.